Bangladesh is a poor country, but it has the potential to develop fast. We have missed the industrial revolution of the West a few centuries ago, and if we want to enter into the scientific revolution, we must have application of modern science and technology.
One of the things that makes the third world impoverished, hungry, subject to natural disasters in ways that the first world is not, is in fact the lack of technology, the lack of the resources to handle the very serious problems that the populations in the third world face. I believe it's very appropriate for the third world countries to have access to the technology of space, of computers and information science. If they are not participating in the technology, if it's not available to them, if they don't have access to the information, they don't participate in the modern world. But the breakthroughs that are coming on now, that are really changing society, that are changing the whole world, are those in information science. The countries in the third world are indeed getting involved with high technology. It's spreading.
There's no other country quite like Bangladesh. With sun, water, and rich, constantly renewed soil, it is one of the most valuable tracts of agriculture real estate on Earth. Bangladesh is a delta formed over ages by three great rivers: the Ganges, the Brahmaputra, and the Meghna. Their waters flow from torrential rains and melting snows of the Himalayas, cutting and carving the land on their way to the sea. From above, Bangladesh is a mosaic of flat landscape, woven and laced by waterways. Homestead clusters form islands surrounded by sprawling fields. Bangladesh, once part of India and later East Pakistan, is an old culture practicing the Muslim religion since the 13th century. Today, Bangladesh is a politically young nation with a growing population and located in one of the most natural disaster-prone areas of the world. 1970. A cyclone devastated the coastal region, sweeping away nearly 500,000 people. 3 million died of disease and starvation in the aftermath. In 1971, Bangladesh became an independent nation after the violent war of liberation against West Pakistan, a war that involved tremendous loss of life and widespread destruction. 1974, drought brought famine in which again the loss of life was several million people. To alleviate the suffering caused by these events, many nations of the world, including the United States, responded by giving food and other relief assistance.
Our attempt is to become self-reliant, to utilize the resources that we have, land and water and soil, fully, effectively, so that we can become self-reliant. Real development should be to help the persons who are disadvantaged to have the fishing rod to fish for themselves rather than giving them the fish.
We started using technology of space application by setting up a little ground station called APT, Automatic Picture Transmission, as early as in 1968. And there we photographed this famous cyclone formation of November 1970. Unfortunately for us, we had a very bad cyclone, but from the technology point of view, we thought that we have found a very powerful technology at our disposal.
Today, there are a series of satellites that scan the Earth from space. These satellites transmit pictures not only of cyclones and weather formations, but also of the Earth's land and water. The scanning mirror of Landsat receives radiation from the Earth. The radiation includes visible light reflected from Earth objects which the human eye can see, and infrared, which is much more than the eye can see. The satellite transmits the information as streams of numbers to a ground station, where the information is received and stored on tapes. Computers process the information into patterns and pictures. Experts interpret these pictures to forecast weather and monitor land and water resources.
Landsat is exciting not only for the geographers, but I think, and not only for the planners and the statisticians, but also, I think, for local level planning for the people themselves and the communities. The people live all over the country, and according to our population census, we have nearly 85,000 villages. Some areas do not have any roads, we have to go by boats. Some areas, we have dirt roads only, we have to walk there.
Gathering information on the ground in Bangladesh is difficult, time-consuming, and sometimes impossible.
If anyone has gone out into the countryside of Bangladesh, one realizes how hard it is to know what is growing just beyond a few acres away from the main roads. This high technology with the satellite allows us to cover the entire country and to record almost every feature. In 25 seconds, we have an image covering the entire course of the Brahmaputra as it makes its way towards the bay.
Qurban Ali is a farmer from one village in the Kushtia district of Bangladesh. Like most farmers in Bangladesh, he uses traditional farming methods. The family of Qurban live and work in a village household where the rhythm of work has changed little in centuries. Government agent visits Qurban, they talk about the crops, the livestock, and the local economic problems.
Our farmers may not be literate in the nominal sense of the term, but they're very intelligent and clever people, and they can use this information for modernizing and revolutionizing agriculture.
Qurban and other farmers in the Ganges-Kobadak area depend totally on irrigation water for their crops. Satellite data can give information about the water flow through the Ganges. If this information is available to government agents and farmers well ahead of time, then the farmers can plan their crops according to the availability of water. Managing water is one way to improve agriculture in Bangladesh in both the monsoon rains and the dry season. The Ganges-Kobadak irrigation scheme pumps water from the Ganges River into a 46-mile main gravity canal. From this canal, 113 miles of smaller drainage channels irrigate about 120,000 acres of land. Satellite images show the amount of water available for irrigation and the extent of the irrigation. Experts can see where rice, jute, sugarcane, and tea are planted. Satellite images show the health of the crop and the density and the maturity of the crop. With this information, planners can estimate how much rice or sugarcane or other crops will be available. If there is a shortage, more food must be imported. Rice and fish are the most important foods to people in Bangladesh. Although most people fish just to feed their families, more than 5 million people make a living from fishing. There are no longer enough fish to feed the growing population. Satellite images can provide an overall view of the number, size, and water quality of inland ponds. From this, Bangladesh can develop projects to increase the supply of fish. Satellite images can also provide data about water temperature and currents in the Bay of Bengal. Information which fishermen can use to locate large catches of fish. The satellite technology that Bangladesh used in the 1970s to monitor weather became outdated. The United States agreed to a joint project to provide Bangladesh with the technology to use information from the satellites now over Bangladesh to monitor the country's climate and agriculture. This joint project is a commitment by the United States to a transfer of satellite technology and a commitment by Bangladesh to use this technology to develop the country's resources. Charles Vermillion, NASA engineer, was project manager.
Certainly, we've learned to use this kind of technology here in the States and use it very well. And in other sister countries we work very closely with, such as Canada and countries in Europe. But this really needs to be applied now to the parts of the world where agriculture is a key to survival.
Scientists, programmers, and engineers from the Bangladesh Space Agency, SPARSO, train at colleges and research institutes in many parts of the United States.
We had to train scientists. We had to train software people. Then we had to train hardware people. Those are the people that would maintain and operate the systems to keep it working for the software people and the science people. Now, how do we do that? How do we train the capable people? People who will come back to SPARSO and work for Bangladesh, who will stay there and maintain the system. People who, once trained, can be considered a resource for Bangladesh. We hit upon a scheme to, working with some of our major computer manufacturers, to purchase some of the video training courses on computer software and hardware. We knew if they could absorb this intense training that we were going to give them over here, which would be total immersion, and they had to be good.
Averaging our 2 visible images that we've created from the data, and we can bring this up to the screen just by typing in this command here.
Then I came to Bangladesh University of Engineering and Technology, and I finished my bachelor's degree in electrical and electronics engineering with my majors in computer engineering.
Okay, and that's NOAA 9, and that'll be an ascending node. Okay, we've got walk.
I got my degree from Bangladesh University of Engineering and Technology, and the degree was in electronics and electronical engineering.
I came from a remote village, Bangladesh. I have completed my Bachelor of Science degree with honors from the Department of Applied Physics and Electronics from Dhaka University, and have had my master's degree from the same department. And then I have joined in SPARSO, and after that I have come to the United States for further training.
What we're doing basically is, as a team, we're both learning what can be learned about Bangladesh from the satellite data, and we're training these gentlemen in the use of it. Dr. Ali is a well-known oceanographer who studied the storm surges in the Bay of Bengal. Dr. Kadir is a meteorologist whose knowledge of the monsoon winds and the storm systems over Bangladesh is very valuable and very important.
At LSU, had both the geography, the mangroves, the swamps, the floods, the hurricanes, as Bangladesh. We also had a very sophisticated remote sensing laboratory that had very similar equipment that was going to be installed in Bangladesh. They will, after this training project, be able to return to Bangladesh, use the same images, the same software, the same computers, and go back and immediately apply it to their problems in the country.
The United States part of the training is complete, and the Bangladesh team of scientists, programmers, and technicians is ready to return home.
British Airway and measure it for you, but I'm taking their word for it. They say it won't fit.
Well, there's DC-10s up at Baltimore. The stuff will probably leave out of Baltimore, wouldn't it?
It may be that all 3 units, electronic and both deck tape drives, might fit.
For this project, Bangladesh agreed to provide the building, the people for training, and the support in Bangladesh to do the job. The United States agreed to develop and install the computer hardware and software. A backup generator ensures constant power. They also had the difficult task of creating a controlled environment to maintain the system in this tropical climate.
First of all, we had to have some way of coordinating the day-to-day activities of NASA and SPARSO. Remember, we're talking about maybe 30 or 40 technicians in order to get this put in place. Meetings were held 8 o'clock every single morning, and during the meetings, we established the priorities for the day, and each one of the organizations accepted certain priorities and responsibilities in order to set up the equipment.
The biggest problem is maintenance problem. Although we maintain our own stations here, you can't find engineers or technicians outside SPARSO. As far as they can do, my experience is this, that they have been doing very well. But very often we have problems of supply of spare parts.
At the same time, in remote areas of Bangladesh, another part of the system is put in place. When installed, this complex computer system will collect environmental data and transmit this data to the satellites. Bangladesh and U.S. engineers are placing these environmental data collectors in 10 river locations. At Chor Montaz, along the coast, the team installs one of the computers. These collection platforms record 9 weather conditions, including wind direction, rainfall, air temperature, river height, and current. Another data collector, a sea buoy, is deployed 60 miles off the shore in the Bay of Bengal. The buoy also measures wind speed and height of storm surge to forecast the path and force of oncoming cyclones and tidal waves. The computer is housed in a metal chamber and powered by the sun. SPARSO, the Bangladesh Space Agency, collects an enormous amount of data. This information, Landsat and weather images, data from the collection platforms, maps, aerial photographs, as well as field research from organizations like the Bangladesh Bureau of Statistics, is processed to form a database. Planners and researchers all over the country will use this research to answer questions about weather and land resources. In remote areas, data collectors are in place. At the Space Agency, the computer system is installed. The system transfer is complete, and Bangladesh takes over. U.S. Ambassador to Bangladesh, Howard Schaefer, formally passes the responsibility for the system to Bangladesh.
Among many potential applications, the government of Bangladesh, in time, should be able to spot cyclonic storms and other disaster-related weather activities 4 to 5 days before they reach this country.
Just 1 week after the formal installation of the system, Sparso's antennae picked up the formation of a cyclone in the Bay of Bengal. Dr. Chaudhry is a meteorologist and Sparso's director of research.
As soon as we get an information about a cyclone, we immediately inform the meteorology department over telephone, and they in turn issue the forecast for the general public, for the port authorities, for the press, and by wireless they transmit this information to their volunteers who ask the people to take shelters in the cyclone shelters.
Cyclone Dhaka, Dhaka calling Sudaram, over.
এত দ্বারা জনসাধারণকে জানানো যাইতেছে যে অদ্য বঙ্গোপসাগরে একটি নিম্নচাপের সৃষ্টি
At Chorjabar, as in most coastal areas of Bangladesh, the Bangladesh Red Cross developed a program during the last decade to warn people of oncoming cyclones. This is an account told by people of Chorjabar about the cyclone of May 1985 and how they heard the warning. As soon as we hear the weather forecast from Dhaka, we send our liaison volunteers to the various unions so the union team leaders can caution the people. If the messages reach in time, then extensive damages of both life and property can be minimized. The sirens started at about 6 o'clock in the evening. I took only my children and a few hens. I left behind all my belongings in my house. Those were washed away by the flood. Now I work in the highlands as a day laborer. I get money to buy rice, potato, and other edibles. Now I have to buy everything, but it is not a problem if I have income. Before the cyclone, my house was built strongly with a roof consisting of 4 parts. Help has come to me from different sources. Some village people gave us rice. Some helped by giving bamboo mats with which I rebuilt my house. Aisha Begum's husband, a farmer, was in Chittagong when the cyclone struck. Aisha was alone with her 4 small sons. How could I go leaving everything behind? At last, when the intensity of the cyclone increased and the tidal wave started coming, I had to leave my home. That was early next morning. Tidal waves entered my house and washed away everything. I was trying to carry my sons, but they were 4 and I had only 2 hands. I could not hold all 4 and one of them dropped and was swept away.
We who have suffered a lot, who have suffered from the Liberation War, after that flood and famine, disasters, natural and man-made both, I think one thing that has kept us still going forward is our optimism, our basic faith in ourselves. It's a hope and a faith that God will not forsake us. And it's a hope and faith that we can pull ourselves up by our own bootstrap. That, I think, is the engine which is keeping us going.
Remote sensing is but one example of the new frontiers of science which Bangladesh too must try to reach.
And even though these technologies may be understood only by a small group of scientists, Bangladesh must use them for their inherent value and usefulness, and also because they are the stepping stones to the 21st century, which is just 15 years away.